Why are more and more US citizens turning to Al Jazeera for their source of information? Well, first, it's because it's the only journalism and publication that has been on the ground. It's the only source of media that has been on the ground, showing real live events in Gaza for the last 7 months. And it's the most reliable source of information where you can literally compare next to social media on the ground accounts of what's happening. So there's no filtering, there's no pushing a narrative. It's real live events. What's happening is being shown. So more and more US citizens are turning to Al Jazeera because they know they don't have a source of information within Western media that's giving the real factual events. I saw in the New York Times that they are bringing awareness to the students and more US citizens using Al Jazeera as their true source of information and a most reliable source of information. And it's very clear and apparent why that is. When you have a lens that is very filtered, highly filtered, and driving a narrative within the agenda and propaganda, of course the perspective is going to fit what they want you to see. So having that unfiltered, external, international, global perspective is what the US students, US citizens are turning towards because it's the most comparable to what's happening and what we're seeing on social media. They will actually take videos and show, and that's why this is what most students are now relying on as their source of information. I did a little bit of research and I saw that there is still something like 30% of US citizens that rely on television for their source of news and information. And a little bit further into that research, I found that a very high percentage is still watching Fox News for that source of information. So that right there gives you a true perspective of why there's so much controversy and misinformation and lack of knowledge and education within the US. But I think the fact that we're hearing that more and more US citizens, especially the students, are relying on that external, international source of information, it's a clear telltale sign of why that information is coming in and why there's so much resistance to what's being portrayed in the US, in the Western media. So if you have not yet taken that initiative, I think that's something that's very important. It's become very apparent that you cannot sit and expect to receive that information. You have to go seek that information. And it's very clear that there are certain networks and medias that are filtering and taking information and painting a picture with how they want it to look. And as someone that has lived internationally, that's instinctively where I go for my source of information. I follow